Welcome to Consented, a podcast series by Usercentrics, where we talk to our most trusted partners about all things data privacy, digital marketing, SaaS, and of course, the thing that ties it all together, partnerships. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Welcome to Consented, episode 3. I'm Bethany Hendricks, Partner Marketing Manager at Usercentrics, and I will be your host today. Before we start, I would just like to make a note to all of the listeners that we are not giving legal advice in this podcast. And if you have any doubts, you should always clarify them with your legal team first. So in this episode, we're going to discuss something that you've probably all been hearing a lot about lately, and that is privacy-led marketing and the cookieless future that lies ahead for marketers. We have a great lineup of guests today. We have, firstly, Sandra Wojciechowska, Data Protection Officer and Head of Consent Management from our partner company, e-dialog. Welcome, Sandra. Would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners a little bit?
Yes, thank you for having me. Hello to everyone. As Bethany already said, I'm Sandra Wojciechowska. I'm head of content management as well as the data protection officer of the e-dialog group. We are a full service consulting firm for data-driven marketing as well as digital strategies. And I'm responsible for developing data protection, compliant marketing strategies for our customers and clients, as well as internally for all the processes that are relating to privacy and data protection.
Thank you, Sandra. Really happy to have you here. And then we also have our very own Chief Marketing Officer, Adelina Paltea. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, Adelina.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here. As Bethany said, I currently lead marketing at Usercentrics, and we're all about privacy-led marketing and this new wave that's starting, and I'm very excited to speak about this today. My experience has been mostly in the digital world with a lot of software businesses. And basically for me, I've seen like the whole evolution of behaviors we have on the internet and how we gather data and what we use the data for and so on. So I think this discussion today will be a very interesting one about the future of marketing and what's in it for us in the next few years.
Great, thank you. Really happy to have you on today. So Google is phasing out third-party cookies. And this means that marketing teams are going to need to rely more heavily on owned channels and collecting first and zero-party data that they will then use in their marketing and advertising. This shift towards tighter data privacy for users is only getting stronger and regulations are getting stricter. So with this in mind, let's break down what do we actually mean by privacy-led marketing. I'd like to hear from you guys. What does privacy-led marketing actually mean to you, and why is it so important right now?
I would say that the entire space is completely shifting. So privacy, data privacy, I think the most prominent thing was GDPR around 2018. And since then, we've seen more and more regulations, and not only in Europe, now also in other regions. And one thing, it's very clear, like data privacy is here to stay. So what we need to do is learn how we do business differently in a completely different way to accommodate for that, because it's not going anywhere. And if anything, is going to be more present in different ways. There are also now legislations about incorporation of AI and so on. So as marketers, we need to look at this and not just the original setup, but how do we do marketing from now on, considering that there are the legislations, but also like what users are now demanding to be in control of their data, to for their consents and preferences to be respected and so on.
Yes, I can just underline what you just said, Adelina. I think the term privacy-led marketing is really an overall term, an approach in marketing where we emphasize the user's preferences actually, or what the user wants, and protecting the user rights as well. And I guess that why this is so important is first and foremost that we can build trust with our consumers and users. We comply also with regulations, so this is also very important for organizations to maintain. Therefore, we also improve data quality as well. We gain more and valuable data from the users that they share freely with us, and gain customer insights as well. So I feel that this whole shift, as also Adelina pointed out, is one that came also with regulations, but also from needs from the users, and is also providing us with also benefits to really use this change in this whole industry for the gains that I've just mentioned.
And I think if I reflect back on the story why I even joined Usercentrics, because as I mentioned, I've been for more than a decade in the software industry, and it's been a great ride, and it was all about the user experience, having a lot of software that helps make your day or business more streamlined and bringing more joy to use it. But eventually I looked at all this as becoming a commodity, and I was looking for something that's more foundational to how we shape the internet. I think we're entering like a new maturity level now in the market. So I was quite excited to join something in the data privacy space, and especially with Usercentrics really shaping how we do things and wanting to be there for people to bring this balance between compliance and growing the business, which marketers are all about. And it's very exciting to be part of this new maturity level, in which I would say maybe before, like if I look at the beginnings of internet, like let's say the year 2000, more or less the start of Google, I think up until now we're more like kids in the candy shop on the internet, and we're all just sharing a lot of information, sharing images as well, social media and so on. But now we're becoming more mature as users and also as companies, and we're reflecting more on how do we do these transactions, what's the preferences that we have around what we are sharing and how we want that to be used, and how much of that personalization we want to be in a healthy dose, I would say, and not on the too much side. So I think this discussion today, it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing your experiences. So I think what I'm getting from you guys is that privacy is here to stay. And actually, this is something that affects multiple areas in an organization. And it's not just about putting a cookie banner on the website, right?
Exactly.
It is more a sort of process of change management. So what are we seeing now organizations needing to do, and what do they need help with evolving into this new sort of privacy landscape?
I feel that this is a major point that you are just addressing right now, because privacy overall is a very multifaceted issue and term and topic as well. And I feel from internal operations to external communication, it reflects so many disciplines as well along all aspects of an organization. So I think that one of the major issues that organizations have right now is to really align the strategies within it. And oftentimes when we work together with our clients, this refers, especially when we talk about external communications or marketing in our scope today, there is the need of implementing effective privacy measures in accordance with compliance. And oftentimes it feels that cookie banners and the website as a major number one privacy issue is like one of the first things that need to be done. But it's not just that. As you mentioned, we are evolving in this field, and I see that there are two major challenges right now in particular. One is that in the organizations we are working with, oftentimes privacy is seen as a burden, and also the cookie banners the setting up of everything is more seen as a burden that it needs to be done. But on the other hand, it's also like one of the first things that users see when, for example, accessing our website. So we can also use it as a benefit and use it for communication purposes and use it in a creative way, of course, respecting the regulatory aspects that we need to face, but we can use that. And I feel where stakeholders were able to work together, the DPOs, the marketing team, and the technical team, there you can really also thrive, get creative ideas how to use that. So I feel that this is one challenge, to get to the point where we can work more closely together and find a common language. And the other one is that in the working client projects, data flows are not documented very well in many cases, not in all, of course, but in many cases. And I feel that to set up a proper privacy strategy, we see the need to understand how data is flowing, what data we actually need, as Adelina already pointed out, and to really challenge that, not to collect everything just for the purpose of it, but also to just challenge that and get consented first-party data, especially, and build strategies around that to focus on those changes. So I feel that we are getting there, but it's still quite a road. But as Adelina pointed out, this is a very good change for the whole industry from what it has been so far.
Yeah, it's definitely early days of this stage 2 of market maturity, as I call it, because indeed, maybe just to be compliant, most of us, we placed a banner on our website, but now it's around the thinking about those interactions we have with the users. So first, as you mentioned, Sandra, it's the fact that the banner is actually the first thing people see, and that can set the tone of how much trust you can get from your users in terms of how transparent you are about the information you're collecting and for what purposes, how much granularity do you have. And maybe sometimes it doesn't have to be all the asks on the first time they just come to your website, but let them do things and ask for more contextual data consents. And then it's like the next interaction. So now that you have the data and the data flows that you mentioned, is to think of every interaction that you have with these people, like how are you using that data? How does it go with regards to email communication, SMS communications, advertising especially, and so on, and being much more respectful of what people are consented to, and like also like what they're preferring their data to be used for, and giving them control, giving them the transparency, and just providing good experiences based on that. I think we've been a bit too much on the have all the data on the very first second of visiting a website, and maybe we've been using it on too aggressive advertising in some cases, or too much personalization to the point where in some cases it can get creepy. So it's around finding that middle point where you actually provide value for the users and you really think about each experience that they have on both collecting and using their data.
Yeah, great points there, Adelina. I want to get back to some of the other points that you brought up, but firstly, one of the things you said is that we need to ask ourselves, with this consented data, what are we actually doing with it? Who's using it? Who has access to it? And we have a much bigger responsibility now about this data and respecting the user's consent. But at the same time, as you brought up earlier, also ensuring that the company is growing. So with these two objectives, what are the most important considerations that marketing leaders need to have in mind when they're adopting a privacy-led marketing strategy?
I guess when we start from one of the major points is in the field of tracking and advertising, is that we really understand as Adelina, or as we pointed just out, is to what data really needs to be collected and what we need. Especially until now, with tracking and advertising as we know it, the data that we have commonly collected were device information, location data, browsing history, also demographic information. We had behavioral data, and of course, also ad interaction data, and I could move on and on. But the question here is really to what is really necessary to move forward, what is also ethically justifiable to collect and to use, especially when we are thinking of the goals that we are having, and also focusing on data protection principles like data minimization. I guess it is now the challenging point to ask ourselves in this field, really, what do we want to achieve? How do we gain the information that we need from our users or consumers, and how do we want to address them in a transparent way, in a respectful way? And I guess this whole direct interaction is getting more and more relevant again. Where we just had different times until now. We could rely on other data, on third-party data, and now this whole narrative of the direct communication or direct information exchange is getting more and more relevant. So I guess this can only work when we are able to achieve the trust of our consumers and our clients. And I feel that with respectful way and with showing that you really care and setting up everything in a conform way, but also in a one that really addresses your target group, I think there is the key. But of course, it is always tricky to find that balance and to get also the trust that we need for further activities, especially in the marketing field.
Yeah, I add to that maybe as marketers we kind of lived with the FOMO, fear of missing out on data for the past decade or so, because it was kind of like just get everything that you can, connect all the tools, track everything, enrich your data, and so on. And I've seen countless situations where we had more data than we can actually put to good use. So we are not necessarily providing better, more personalized experiences, or we're overdoing it. So I've seen both extremes, and I think now it's really being more mindful about those micro moments and interactions with your users based on their consents and on their preferences, and that increases trust. So, for example, I mentioned before, if you ask for everything the moment they come to your website, some will give you consent and some will not. But if you do it more contextually, for example, in specific places where they want to take certain actions and they're already engaging with you more, and that's the moment where you ask for specific data consents, then we notice that the consent rates are higher, which helps you as marketer to, track the data better, use it better afterwards in communications and advertising and so on. So that increases the user trust. And just generally transparency, we've done a bit of research and we noticed that although now there are these cookie banners everywhere, users still feel like, is it really transparent and being in control? Not really. So I think there's still so much more that we need to do as marketers to gain that trust from them in terms of how we ask for information and how we use it. And there are a lot of practices that I would say we need to get rid of. So, sometimes maybe we gate too much content just for the sake of getting emails. Like people need to get to know you better and gain the trust first, and then I'll only ask for the relevant information at the relevant times. Now we're talking about cookieless, which actually I say it's more of a misleading term because actually just third-party cookies are being deprecated. So Google announced that they will start the deprecation. And now more and more marketers need to look into first-party cookies, having their own server-side tagging and so on. Also, we're talking sometimes about first-party data where you actually collect the information firsthand rather than relying on third-party cookies. So, having certain information to profile your users when they sign up for something, that's quite powerful and it needs to be used right. So again, not asking for too much if you don't use it. I think sometimes we still have complex legal text and terms and conditions and all that can be simplified. People would love to have just more clarity, top level. And perhaps we're also like when we think about advertising, right? We're relying so much on this data sharing and third-party cookies and so on. But what if we think more about the information we collect and the right information at the right time, and then we'll have higher consent rates and we'll have the trust of the users. Sandra, perhaps, I don't know if you have some examples of seeing your clients on using first-party data or anything like that you could share with us?
Yes, maybe just one point before that, because you mentioned also the whole cookieless as well, the complexity that comes with it. I feel that also with the projects that we are having, oftentimes we get the question, okay, if we lose cookies, do we even need cookie banners then? And I feel that it is also and this is a valid question. I feel that this just reflects the complexity that we are all facing at the moment, especially when I imagine myself to being a marketer, all these regulatory terms, everything that we need to consider. I get that in this changing ecosystem, it is very complex and somewhat also frustrating to understand what really needs to be done. And to answer that question, yes, we will need cookie banners, although third-party cookies, as you correctly mentioned, are deprecating, because this is not a question of first-party or third-party cookies, but more of what is technically essential and everything that is beyond that, what is essentially use that a website can work, then that needs to be consented. So I feel that this whole discussion that we still need to raise awareness, still need to explain what really is happening, what we really need to set up, and how we can really use the consent management in the future. And I feel that until now, this was always just the cookie banners, but we are moving away from that to content management, to, as mentioned, the buzzword privacy-led marketing. And Adelina, as you mentioned, the first-party data, this is one major role and one major key to this whole privacy-led marketing strategy. And I guess first-party data refers, of course, to the information that we are getting directly from our customers and clients. And this is typically considered one of the most valuable types of data that we can get, because it is provided with us, it is reliable, it is accurate. And I guess typical examples are CRM data, everything that we collect from email marketing or from email addresses to purchase history, preferences, but also behavioral data on our websites that we can gain by using analytics tools. It is also, as mentioned, email marketing data, social media interactions, mobile app data, for example, to just change. It's not always just the website. So I feel that we have many opportunities to gain this first-party data, but first and foremost, we need consent to use it. We need to provide the purposes where we use them, and we need to be open about it and also inform and be transparent about it. So this is also just reflecting how we work with our clients here, and I guess this is the key for this whole cookieless era that we are already in. And I think also the major part is, and the clue why this is important, is that we receive more accurate data, as mentioned, and we can use it for our audiences and develop tailored campaigns. We can get the audience's needs and preferences and tailor towards it. So we can meet the needs whilst, of course, respecting the privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Sandra. Actually, it kind of ties back to something that Adelina was saying earlier about tailoring the experience. And I think that in the past, we've had so much data to work with that we've really been able to like hyper personalize our user journeys. And I'm sure we've all experienced this sort of thought where you're like, oh my goodness, my phone is listening to my thoughts, you know, like it's way too personalized and it's actually becoming a little bit creepy. So I would like to hear your opinion, both of you, what you think of what is actually the balance between personalizing a user experience and also respecting their privacy.
I think it's finding that fine balance of providing value for both the user and the business. And we need to think about each micro interaction, which we could do more of in the sense, rather than an overall. So I'm not saying tilting too much towards, okay, don't collect any data, and neither to collect all the data. The thing is, the balance somewhere in the middle, right? And when we talk about privacy-led marketing, it's exactly like providing the best moments to your users at the right time with the right data, rather than capture it all from the first second, as I said. And considering what Sandra was saying before, so I think this really needs to stick today for all our listeners and viewers. Myth number one, cookieless doesn't mean absolutely all cookies are disappearing. We are talking mostly about third-party cookies. And also, cookieless doesn't mean that you don't need to collect consents anymore. Collecting consents will probably be the cornerstone of everything that we'll be doing in marketing from now on. And I think we're evolving even beyond the banner itself. So we all now know the cookie banner. And again, it's not about the cookies itself, but it's about collecting consents. And that's here to stay no matter what happens. And legislations and both users' demands are asking more and more for that. But beyond that, I think we also need to look into collecting preferences for communications, for example. At the moment, a lot of people want your email address to start sending you all sorts of newsletters, product updates, all sorts of things, right? And we ask now for consents for that, but that's about it. And now we can get more sophisticated around the preferences for that. So, for example, how often do you want to be contacted? On which channels? On what exact topics? I think we just need to get much more granular. So to build these relationships with people, we need to take into account like a level deeper of like what do they actually want and what's suiting for them, and then give them access to this to modify them whenever they want, as your relationship between your business and the users are evolving.
Yeah, I feel this is one of the major points, and I feel that especially when you mentioned all the various touch points where we get into contact with our users and consumers or customers, it's not just, as mentioned a couple of times already, the website, but as you mentioned, maybe also the preference in communication regarding the mails, or as well point of sales, where we can directly ask a variety of preferences regarding to privacy. Also a call center, there are many different cases where we are moving towards. And I guess the future, as you also mapped out, is a bit to collect that and to then combine and this data and to really understand what is the need, what are the preferences. And I think we are getting there. And Bethany, regarding your question to the balance between personalization as well. What comes into my mind, especially, is the term privacy paradox. I feel that sometimes, or privacy paradox refers to the discrepancy between the individuals concerned about data privacy, but also their actual behavior on various platforms or online. So this means that it is observed that people express concerns towards their privacy, but then on the other hand, they are engaging in behaviors that are seeming to contradict with them and seem to be quite the opposite. They share data freely and on a variety of platforms. So this is a bit of a paradox that we see in this field. But what we can also see is that users value trade-offs, right? When we can provide them with a trade-off that there will be personalized recommendations, targeted adverts that are of interest to them, then users are also more prone to share that data with companies. I think we need to find the balance here to really communicate the trade-off and also communicate that this data is being used respectfully. And so I think this is the way to go. And hyper-personalization, I think those times are over, but that doesn't mean that personalization is not valued. And of course, it should be worthwhile to proceed with that, but we just need to adapt to these changes.
And perhaps building the trust with users is now becoming really a commercial benefit as well, because we talk about how businesses want to grow, right? Marketers want to grow the businesses. Yeah. So actually gaining that trust, it's becoming an important factor. And we always knew, right? Like people will go for the brands that they trust. And now when it comes to brands, to businesses they interact with, just like, I don't know, now we know that we need to protect the planet, so we try to avoid plastic. We like companies that care about packaging and so on. I think it's the same now with regards to people's data. They realize that there are options, there are better options out there. There are companies that respect their needs, their data consents, their preferences more than others. And we're already seeing that they go more and more for those brands that they trust. I think the companies that will be the first ones to understand that and to provide that to their users will have a huge kind of first mover advantage, but eventually it will just become table stakes. I think this is just a foundational right when using the internet. And I think we are all here from both users' perspective and businesses' perspective to just make sure that the internet gets into a better place, that it's helping us all and it's more respectful with each other.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've spoken a little bit about how we can build trust with users. We spoke about contextual requests and being transparent, not having all this legal text. But what are some other ways that we can help businesses gain user trust?
Okay, we can run through a few quick suggestions. So I mentioned before contextual requests for data rather than just ask for everything on the first second people come to your digital shop or website. And it's the same, like, I think if we transpose everything in real life, like imagine you enter a shop and from the moment you step in, there's someone with a questionnaire, right? Like asking you all sorts of things. It's just overwhelming. You don't want to, so you'll probably say, no, thank you, right? And move on. We do the same in digital. So if you think about it, just let people be, let people look around, and then they will ask you the right information at the right time and give you the right information at the right time. And I think contextual data consents are quite powerful in this regard.
For me, next to that, one of the major things and keys is clear wording. Clear, which means legal language that is very complicated. And I feel this is one of the biggest challenges because as a DPO myself, I understand that this language needs to be quite standardized as well as very well defined. But for the users, it is often misleading, and they just don't understand what we mean actually. So it really helps to get feedback, and also to stick heads together with maybe other stakeholders, that they give feedback to, is this text or this wording understandable, what is happening. So I feel that you should really focus on providing the wordings in a very easy and straightforward way, and not just trying to be as complicated as possible. So I feel this is a challenge, but I think this is also a good way to build trust.
Yeah, exactly. Add to that the overall brand building and brand reputation, right? I mentioned that gaining users' trust is becoming a commercial benefit, and we see this more and more. I think one of the first companies that probably made a stance in this regard is Apple, where they have a big thing on data privacy, and we did notice that people were really considering that as a competitive advantage. Of course, the implementation of it's still sometimes nuanced, and I think they were in all sorts of news around it, but definitely that proved the fact that people do prefer that. So you can build a whole brand reputation just on data privacy.
Yes, I like that. And I feel what is also important is that when you build that, you should also be able as an organization or as a company to maintain that, and be also able to quickly adapt and to react when, for example, users are asking for deletions, requesting deletions, or requesting to access where their data is being processed. So I feel that as companies, we also have the responsibility to have those workflows in our companies, and to really react very quickly and take it serious when users and consumers are requesting these just basic rights that they have. So really challenging the workflow is also something where I feel you can then maintain, of course, the respect and the trust here with the user.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. One of the other places where we have a lot of touch points with consumers is email marketing. And this is an area that also has tightening regulations. We're not hearing about it as much. But what is some advice that we could give to companies wanting to also adapt to these new email marketing regulations?
I mentioned before the preference management, right? Like you can ask people how often do they want to be approached, on which channels, and about what topics. So a bit more rather than do you want to receive more from us, yes or no. Maybe it's not that clear for marketers that these tools exist. Like, for example, we're offering a technical solution for this. It's not about not having options to do it, but it's actually about implementing it and thinking about these micro interactions. And I think even on communications, like, again, if we transpose everything to real life examples, like I was sitting in an interview once, and someone was definitely did their research quite well around all the people in the interview, and he was using like very specific kind of knowledge points about us. And at some point it just became like, it's not really contextual. So is it like too much? Do we feel comfortable with this? So again, if you transpose that in digital, it's like, are you overdoing it? So kind of like, of course, if I'm shopping for a dress online, I do want to hear information about that. But if you're using that, if you're using like something you hear on the microphone to then sell me something specific that I talked about with my friend, that's just perhaps too much. And again, so it's like about the advertising and the communications, and how do we record the preferences use them wisely and give the users access to modify their preferences at any time.
I feel the preferences is one major point, as well as Bethany, your question also towards email marketing specifically. So I feel that you can really gain knowledge here what to deliver then. But I think before that, of course, I guess this is nothing new, but I will say it either way. Of course, getting the consent beforehand, before using before sending electronic mails or direct information, direct advertising, of course, and respecting the double opt-in procedure. I think those are, of course, the major keys. I feel that with email marketing, it's also there are very strict considerations also to take. You can, of course, address existing customers. This is an exception, but then I would also advise to do your homework and really learn the regulations in your respective country. For example, in Germany, this can be found and is regulated in the law against unfair competition. In Austria, this is the Telecommunications Act. So really do your homework when you want to do email marketing, and understand that you can address your customers, but only under exceptions. For example, that this email address is being received with a sale, product of a service, and only in terms if you want to advert own similar goods and services. And there are other aspects to respect. But I feel that regarding your question, Bethany, with email marketing, you need to just consider that. And it also shows consent is the key to use that channel.
Yeah, and I think we all need a Sandra in our life, right, to kind of navigate the regulations. And yes, there are specific ones for different things that we want to do as marketers, and every country has a different way of looking at it, and regulations also keep appearing and changing. So there's a lot, and that's why I say data privacy is here to stay. So how do we do marketing around it? Hence the whole privacy-led marketing. But I would say if it all feels overwhelming in terms of what regulations out there, basically it all boils down to if you collect consents and preferences and you respect them, that's the basis of everything.
Yeah, I like the summary of that point, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to ask the big question now, the question that is the title of this episode. But I'm going to take the word cookieless out because we've spoken about how that's deceiving. So do we think that the approach of privacy-led marketing is the solution that marketers are looking for to tackle the end of third-party cookies? What do you guys think?
Yes. And I guess this is a very short answer, but yes, of course, we really feel that this is the foundation of the solution when it comes to cookieless strategies. I feel that we do have 5 major pillars that we worked upon in the last couple of years, where post-cookie was already a huge topic, and holistic strategy towards consent management is the first pillar, which means that is really the foundation. Second comes first-party data strategy and data ownership to really get to know the data flows, the data that you are collecting, as we've already mentioned before. And then it really leads to good systems in place, that you have correct setups and good systems in place that really facilitate using those consented data. For example, in the future, customer data platforms that are, of course, not always the answer, but what we mean is really systems that can help you facilitate and use the data that you collect, and then also use cookieless targeting strategies. And then last and foremost, also use the technical changes that we're having. And with machine learning and data science being present more than ever, and also already implemented in many of the tools that we already use, to learn to use them and to also gain knowledge and use the facilities that we have for the future. So I think those 5 pillars are our answer to the cookieless strategy. And as mentioned, the foundation is really a holistic strategy towards content management through all the channels, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I would say there are a few huge milestones over the last few years, right? So we had about 2018 moment with GDPR. Okay, we need the consent banners. Now 2024, we talk about deprecation of third parties. But I like a lot what Sandra said around we need a holistic strategy, a holistic approach. It's not just about set these things and that's it. It's around the whole concept of rethinking what data we use, when do we ask for it, why is it useful, how do we interact with the users based on this, and so on. So it's really like we need to look again at everything. And for me, this is privacy-led marketing. Is this whole new approach to how we do everything from A to Z, not just because now we need one thing or another pushed by legislations. And at Usercentrics, we're happy to take this stance to help with providing any education or conversation necessary so that marketers can learn from each other, inspire each other to start this new wave of privacy-led marketing, as I call it, like a new level of maturity in the market for a better internet, so businesses can thrive, users can feel they are confident in their interactions with businesses, and so on. And I'm very happy that we can do this with our many partners, like Sandra here today, and you'll be hearing quite a lot more from us, from all of us around this. And I think we're all learning still. It's, learning by doing and inspiring each other, as I mentioned. So it's like bringing all these conversations to the surface. It's okay to know that we are all in the early days. And now is the time to reshape this and to learn from each other.
Yeah, exactly. It's exciting times. And thank you both so much for all of the insights that you gave today. I think that we have some great takeaways for marketers who are looking to rebuild their marketing strategies in the more privacy-led future. And a special thank you, Sandra. I think Adelina summed it up when she said we all need Sandra in our lives. But thank you so much for bringing your expert knowledge to this episode. We really value having partners such as yourself who can really help us solve a much wider range of needs of our customers. It's really important to us that we're working with trusted partners. And thank you, Adelina. You gave us so much great advice in this episode, and you have so much knowledge and experience, and it's really well appreciated. And also thank you to everyone who was listening. I hope you have enjoyed this episode and found it valuable. And if you would like to give us feedback on it, on the content or on the podcast, or make any requests for future content, you can visit our website, usercentrics.com/consented. And we hope to see you back for the next episode.
Thanks
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the conversation.
Thank you. Me too. Thank you.